silence every other voice right now and anchor your spirit to what I am about to say. That ache you have been carrying in your chest, the one that shows up at the quietest moments of the day, I need you to stop running from it and let it speak. Because today, everything changes. Heaven has issued a verdict, and that verdict has your name on it. The enemy has been working overtime this week for one reason, and one reason only. He knows who is on their way to you. He knows the assignment that has been released from the throne room, and if he can keep you in your head replaying what went wrong, rehearsing old wounds, second-guessing whether you are even worthy of what God promised, he can delay your reception just long enough to make you give up before the delivery arrives. But you are not giving up today, because you were guided here. It all shifts now. The loneliness, the confusion, the feeling that everyone around you is being loved and chosen while you wait in silence. It ends here, not because time simply passed, but because of what you have done in this season. Think back to that moment this week, or maybe last week, when you wanted to reach out to the wrong person again, when loneliness pressed so hard against your chest that settling felt like relief. Maybe you almost sent the message. Maybe your finger hovered over the name. And then something stopped you. You put the phone down. You walked away. You chose silence over desperation. You did not know it then, but heaven recorded that moment. That was not weakness. That was a war cry. That single act of restraint sent a shockwave through the spiritual realm and accelerated a timeline that the enemy had spent months trying to stall. You did not ruin your love story. You protected it. You did not find this message by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. God did. This is a divine appointment that was scheduled before the foundations of the earth, before you knew what heartbreak felt like, before the last relationship that confused you, before the night you asked God if you would ever stop feeling this alone. He saw this moment, and he arranged it. Stay until the very end, because in the next few minutes, I am going to hand you the spiritual verdict that confirms your lifetime partner has already been assigned and released. I am going to show you the exact lie the enemy has been using to make you feel disqualified from love. And at the end, I am going to give you the declaration that seals this new season open and closes the door on every counterfeit connection forever. Do not leave. Your future self, the one standing beside the person heaven chose for them, is begging you to stay. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. The silence has not just been quiet, it has been loud in a way that is hard to explain, like a room full of noise that somehow still feels empty. Maybe you were lying in bed last night, staring at the ceiling, watching the hours move, feeling a kind of loneliness so specific it had a shape. Or maybe you were sitting somewhere in the middle of the day at your desk, in a waiting room, in the middle of a crowd, and a wave hit you out of nowhere. Not sadness exactly, something heavier. The feeling that everyone around you has found their person, and something must be fundamentally broken in you because you are still here, still waiting, still wondering what is wrong with the picture. Maybe you have started to whisper things to yourself you would never say out loud, that maybe you are too much, or not enough, that your past disqualifies you, that the things you have done, the mistakes you made in love, the relationships you gave too much to, the times you stayed too long or left too soon, maybe those things have moved you out of the category of people who get chosen. You feel suspended between the love you have known and the love you were promised. And in that suspension, the enemy has been very busy. He has been whispering a very specific lie directly into the center of your waiting. He is telling you that the reason your person has not arrived is because of you. He is replaying the moments you are most ashamed of. That relationship you held on to past its expiration date. That time you compromised your standards because you were tired of being alone. That season when you chose the wrong person and gave them the right version of you. The accuser is taking every one of those moments and building a case. He is telling you that because of what you did, The blessing has been rerouted. That someone else who made better choices is receiving what was meant for you. He is telling you that you are loved by God, but passed over for partnership. That is a lie constructed in hell. Here is what the Word of God actually says about this moment. Proverbs 18:22 declares, "He who finds a wife finds what is good and receives favor from the Lord. Not he who performs perfectly, not he who has a spotless record. He who finds." The promise is tied to the finding, and the finding is tied to God's timing, not your history. Your mistakes did not cancel the promise. They were part of the path that qualified you to receive it. And Romans 8:28 seals it shut. All things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to His purpose. All things, not the clean things, not the easy chapters, all things. That means every wrong turn, every broken relationship, every night you cried yourself to sleep wondering if something was wrong with you. God was weaving it. He was not wasting it. He was building the version of you that could receive and sustain the love He has been preparing. The waiting was not punishment. It was preparation. The loneliness you have felt is not evidence that you are forgotten. It is evidence that what is coming required a deeper making. You could not receive at the level you were 5 years ago what heaven is releasing to you now. The delay was not divine rejection. It was divine refinement. The heaviness you feel right now is not the weight of abandonment. It is the weight of arrival. It is the pressure of something enormous moving through the spiritual atmosphere toward your exact coordinates. You think the moments you stayed silent, walked away, chose yourself over desperation, you think those were small. But heaven does not record small things. Those moments were proof of your readiness. They were the final qualifications on a list that has now been completed. You are not still waiting because you are forgotten. You are at the finish line of the wait. Most chosen ones who hear a message like this feel the fire for about 48 hours. Then the dryness returns. The doubt creeps back. The silence gets louder. And within a week, they are exactly where they were before waiting, wondering, spiritually exhausted. That cycle breaks today, or it does not. The inner sanctum puts a prophetic word from the throne room in your hands every single morning, 365 days of hearing God before the world can speak first. The link is in the first pinned comment. It will not be there forever, and neither will this window God just opened for you. Before we go any further, if you're watching this and something in your spirit already knows this message is for you, I want you to go to the link in the description and get the guide we've put together called Times Chosen and Ready, Preparing Your Heart to Receive Your Lifetime Partner. It walks you through everything we're about to uncover here, but deeper, in a way you can return to every single day. The link is right there. Get it. And now, let's go even further, because here is what most people never tell you about the wait. The wait is not emptiness. The wait is not punishment. And it is certainly not a sign that you have been forgotten. The wait is not God looking at you with crossed arms, withholding joy until you get it right. The wait is not heaven dangling love in front of you like a prize you have to earn through exhaustion. No. The wait is often the place where God does His most intimate work, the place where He quiets the noise, separates what is temporary from what is eternal, and teaches your heart the sound of His voice without the distraction of someone else's applause. What the wait actually is, and this is what heaven has been trying to show you, is preparation so precise, so surgical, so intentional, that if you fully understood what God was doing inside this season, you would stop calling it a delay and start calling it what it really is: alignment. Because alignment is not just about the calendar. It's not just about the right time. Alignment is about the inner architecture of your life, matching the weight of what you've been praying for. It's about your soul becoming a stable home for the kind of love you say you want. Some blessings are not late. They are heavy. They require reinforcement. And God, in His mercy, will not place a roof on walls that haven't finished curing. He will not send covenant into a heart that still confuses intensity for intimacy, or attention for affection, or chemistry for character. There is a difference between a door opening and a foundation being ready. And this season, whether it has felt quiet, repetitive, or painfully still, is not a blank page. It is construction. It is God in the hidden place, tightening bolts you can't see, sealing cracks you didn't know were there, teaching you how to stand without leaning on someone who cannot hold you. Scripture says, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven." A season has purpose. That means your waiting has purpose too, even if it has been lonely, even if it has been confusing, even if nights have felt longer than they should, even if you've watched other people pair off while you've stayed behind with unanswered questions. Heaven is not wasting your time. Heaven is refining your aim. And when God refines your aim, you stop reaching for what looks good, and you start recognizing what is truly yours. Think about Ruth. She did not sit in Bethlehem rehearsing her loneliness. She did not build her identity around what she had lost. She did not turn grief into a throne and call it home. She had pain, yes. She had history, yes. She had every reason to close down, to become cynical, to decide love was not for her. She was a widow in a foreign land, with no guarantee that tomorrow would be kinder than yesterday. But Ruth made a choice that reveals the secret of the chosen. She stayed moving with God, even when she couldn't see God moving for her. She worked, she moved. She stayed faithful to something that hadn't yet revealed its full purpose. She chose loyalty over bitterness, obedience over despair, diligence over drama. And while she was in the middle of ordinary obedience, just gleaning in a field, just showing up, Boaz saw her. Notice the setting. Not a palace, not a party, not a perfectly curated moment. A field, dust on her feet, sun on her back, sweat in her hands. And still, favor found her. Because favor does not require a stage, it requires alignment. Ruth wasn't trying to be seen. She was trying to be faithful. And that's the kind of person God can trust with a covenant connection. Boaz saw her, not because she performed for him, not because she announced herself, but because her character had already preceded her. Her reputation arrived before she did. Other people had already said, "Have you heard what she did? Have you seen her consistency? Have you witnessed her devotion?" And what that means for you is this. The person heaven is sending is not looking for a highlight reel. They are not hunting for the most impressive resume, the flashiest personality, the loudest confidence. They are being drawn to a frequency, and that frequency is forged in the fire of the season you're in right now. It's forged when nobody is clapping. It's forged when you do the right thing without being rewarded immediately. It's forged when you keep your integrity even when it would be easier to compromise. It's forged when you tell the truth. Keep your word. Honor God with your body. Protect your peace. And refuse to entertain what will cost you your calling. Ruth's love story did not begin with romance. It began with resilience. It began with surrender. It began with the quiet kind of faith that doesn't need to be posted to be real. And if you are in a season where it feels like all you have is the field, just work, just routine, just another day of showing up, hear me. Fields are where provision hides. Fields are where destiny can look ordinary until suddenly it isn't. Fields are where God introduces you to people who are connected to your next chapter. But here's where it goes deeper, and this is the part most people skip entirely. You can be in the right season and still be broadcasting the wrong signal. You can be standing in the right field and still carrying the wrong story in your spirit. You can be positioned for blessing and still be speaking a language that repels it. Because what you believe about yourself in this waiting period is actively shaping the energetic field around you. Not in a shallow, trendy way, but in a spiritual law way. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Your inner world is not private. It leaks. It radiates. It sets the temperature of your relationships. If you have spent this season rehearsing rejection, replaying every relationship that didn't work, every person who left, every moment someone chose someone else over you, then without even realizing it, you have been reinforcing an agreement. An agreement that says you are someone who gets left. And that agreement is a spiritual frequency. It is not just a thought. It is a broadcast. It is a lens you look through. It is a script you hand to people without knowing it, inviting them to play a role you've already cast. And it will keep attracting experiences that confirm it until you consciously break it. Because the enemy loves agreements. He doesn't always need to destroy you with obvious sin if he can trap you with subtle identity lies. He knows if he can convince you that abandonment is your portion, you will interpret every delay as rejection. You'll read neutral moments as proof you're unworthy. You'll become hypervigilant, scanning for signs of leaving, even when someone is trying to stay. You'll shrink to avoid being hurt, and then call it humility. You'll accept crumbs and call it patience. You'll settle for almost, because you don't believe you can be fully chosen. And the tragedy is this: it can all happen while you are still praying, still fasting, still serving, still worshipping. Because prayers without renewed identity can become rituals that soothe you without transforming you. The goal is not to become more religious. The goal is to become more free. And freedom starts with recognizing what you've been agreeing with. This is where the story of Jacob becomes unnervingly relevant. Jacob wrestled all night, not for entertainment, not for drama, for survival, for destiny. He was exhausted. He was in that dark place where you can't pretend anymore, where your strength runs out and only your need remains. The angel dislocated his hip, and still Jacob refused to let go without a blessing. That means Jacob was willing to limp into his future if it meant he wouldn't have to crawl back into his past. He would rather be wounded with purpose than whole without it. But here is what no one talks about in that moment. Before the blessing came, the angel asked him a single question: "What is your name?" And the reason that question matters so deeply is because Jacob's name meant deceiver, supplanter, one who grasps, one who manipulates outcomes because he doesn't trust God to provide them. Jacob had spent his entire life operating under an identity that was rooted in manipulation and survival. He wanted blessing, but he tried to get it through schemes. He wanted security, but he chased it through control. He wanted love, but he pursued it through performance and bargaining. And the angel was not asking for an introduction. The angel was asking, "Do you know what you've been calling yourself? Do you know what agreement you've been living under? Do you know the story you've been using to justify the way you move? Because heaven will not build a new future on an old false name." And when Jacob confessed his name, when he named the lie, the blessing was finally able to land. Confession wasn't humiliation. It was liberation. It was Jacob saying, "This is what I have been. This is what I've been called. This is what I've been operating under." And the moment he brought it into the light, the angel renamed him Israel, one who wrestles with God and prevails. In other words, you are not what you did to survive. You are who God says you are. Not because he became perfect, but because he was finally honest about what he had been carrying. And there's something about honesty before God that unlocks transformation. The darkness loses power when it is named. The lie loses authority when it is exposed. The false identity begins to crumble when you stop protecting it. And what's coming next in this message will likely surprise you, because it always does when the truth gets this specific. Because here is what that moment reveals about your situation right now. You may have been praying for your person to arrive. You may have been declaring love, asking heaven for your partner, believing for connection. You may have said all the right words, posted the right affirmations, listened to the right sermons, repeated the right scriptures. But underneath the prayer, underneath the declaration, there has been a name you have been secretly calling yourself. Unwanted, too much, not enough, broken, behind. The one who always gets overlooked. The one who has to prove their value. The one who has to earn someone staying. The one who is hard to love. And you might not say it out loud, but you answer to it. You respond to it when someone compliments you, and you deflect. You respond to it when someone pursues you, and you assume it's a game. You respond to it when you're alone at night, and the silence becomes evidence instead of peace. And heaven cannot override your own agreement. God respects your will. He invites, He leads, He heals, He restores, but He does not force you to receive what you keep refusing internally. The universe responds to your deepest held belief, not your loudest spoken prayer. That's why Jesus could stand in his hometown and do few mighty works there, not because his power ran out, but because their unbelief created resistance. That's why some people can be surrounded by opportunity but still feel invisible, because inside they have already agreed with invisibility. So the question is not whether your person is coming. The question is, what name are you answering to while you wait? Because if you are still answering to unwanted, you will misinterpret love when it arrives. If you are still answering to too much, you will shrink to fit someone who is not assigned to you. If you are still answering to not enough, you will overgive, overperform, and overextend, trying to secure what God intended to be freely received. If you are still answering to broken, you will treat healing like a finish line instead of a journey, and you will postpone joy as if you must be flawless to be loved. But covenant love is not built on flawless people. It is built on honest people, submitted people, growing people, people who let God write the story. And this leads us to something that the enemy has been using against chosen ones specifically, because this strategy is not random. The enemy does not waste sophisticated attacks on people with no assignment. He does not assign heavy warfare to empty vessels. If your love life has felt like a battlefield, if it seems like every promising connection collapses, every door closes just before it opens, every person who seemed right turned out to be wrong, that pattern is not coincidence. It is targeted interference. And some of you have felt it. The moment you start healing, something tries to pull you back into old cycles. The moment you decide to raise your standards, someone shows up with familiarity disguised as fate. The moment you begin to believe again, disappointment tries to reintroduce itself like an old friend, because what you carry in covenant would be dangerous to darkness. A chosen one in the wrong relationship is neutralized. Your prayer life gets dull. Your discernment gets blurry. Your assignment gets delayed because your energy is constantly spent managing chaos, recovering from confusion, and trying to be loved by someone who is not capable of loving you in truth. But a chosen one in divine alignment becomes unstoppable. Two people under God, walking in purpose, covering each other, sharpening each other, praying together, building something that outlives them, that is a threat to hell. That is legacy. That is generational healing. That is the end of certain bloodline patterns. So the disruption of your love life has not just been pain. It has been strategic opposition designed to keep you isolated, distracted, and doubting the very calling that makes you a target. But here's the part that matters. Warfare is not proof you're losing. Warfare is often proof you're close. Pharaoh intensified Israel's labor when deliverance was near. The enemy presses hardest when he senses a shift he cannot stop, only delay. And if he can't steal your destiny, he will try to exhaust your hope. He'll try to make you interpret delay as denial. He'll try to make you call your discernment being picky, your boundaries being cold, your healing being selfish, your standards being unrealistic. But discernment is. Boundaries are not bitterness. Healing is not selfish. Standards are not pride. They are stewardship. They are you protecting what God is building. But stay with me, because coming up is the insight that breaks the cycle, the one hidden thing that has been feeding your delay in a way you never expected. You see, most people assume the blockage is external. They think the right person just hasn't shown up yet, or that timing hasn't aligned, or that God is still preparing their partner. And while all of that may be true in part, there is something internal that has to shift first. Because God can prepare a person, and prepare a meeting, and prepare a moment, but if your heart is still armored in the wrong way,